Alright, hi guys. This one is going to be for episode 2 of my tips and tricks videos. Tried the original recording for this yesterday, but missed out a couple of bits that I forgot to mention, so I figured I'd just go over it again. Obviously, the other video isn't published, so you won't see it and know the difference. So, in episode 1, I basically covered easy ways to set up your base, using trophies to mark out certain building locations. So if you want to experiment and move things around, that's how you can do it. Obviously watch that video again if you want to see. That, if you've seen it, will also help you to set up everything that will be included with this video. So obviously the trick to any defense is having it effective offline and online. It's all well and good if you can defend it when you're on, but if anyone can walk over it while you're offline, then it's still not as good as it can be. So, ideally, you want to set it up to be painful for whoever hits you, whether it's online or off. I'll also go through some of my attack logs and basically prove this setup's effectiveness, because I'm going to be changing it soon, updating it a bit, just moving things about, making it a little bit more effective. So obviously I don't mind going into details on, most of the aspects at the moment. So, also included in this video, benefits of being in a corner spot on the map, whether it's top corner, bottom corners, left, right, makes no difference. If you're in a corner, I'll explain how you can sort of use that to your advantage. Covering spawn points, mainly also with the use of Judge, but mainly mines, Dragon's Teeth, and the low wires. Also I'll add in a trick I picked up from one of my other mates on the game. Use of Devout's on the spawn point as well. So just so I don't forget. Right, fusion towers, that'll be included as well. I'll go into those in a bit more detail in due time. Obviously, use of fusion towers on the corners and why fusion towers are better than deep reactors. Out of defense line, so heavy platforms, Gen 2 platforms, use of different support turrets, rocket silos, drone silos, last stand defender buildings, that kind of thing. All on the outer defense line. Okay, inner defense line being what I've got at the moment, the low wires, my unit production buildings. That's basically it for the inner defense line. And then the command center itself. Different options you got there. The main options at the moment being stealth and shield, but those three are useless, and so is stealth. I laugh at people who use the stealth generator now, same as I do for people who use. I'm still on Discord as well. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I jumped back to 16 because AAF weren't. Yeah, they weren't there anymore. So. Well, you missing me already? Well, that was enthusiastic. Right. Anyway, as I was saying before, so rudely interrupted. Fucking hell, I'm gonna have to mute these guys, aren't I? Fucking Jesus. Yep, I'm gonna mute him. One sec. There we go. Right. Where was I? Okay, yeah, that I was just on about the command center, wasn't I? So yeah, that's basically what I'm going to be covering in this video. So to start off with, spawn points. Nope, to start off with actually, benefits of being in the corner of the map, which I'm not in at the moment because I'm going to be doing some of the advanced material bases today, finishing off my last fusion tower. So I am, well, pretty close to the middle. But if I go, for example, top left corner, this is my usual spot. Actually, my usual spot is round about there. So, if, for example, I was parked there, as you can tell, chances of somebody landing on top of me or to the west side, not very likely. In fact, nigh on impossible. So, with that in mind, you can plan where whoever's attacking you, where their air is going to come from. And you can use that to then determine where they're most likely to put ground units. Most people, or at least most people who know what the fuck they're doing, will have their ground units spawning on the same point as their air. So, obviously, hence in my base, the Dragon's Teeth cover the air spawn points. Reason for that, again, it, ground gets stuck, air gets shot on, all works together. Like I said, obviously I'll explain that more when I go through some of the attack logs. But if you can control, right, again, just pretend my base is in that spot. I probably should have jumped when doing this video, but yeah. So, again, like I said, pretend my base is in that top left corner. If there's nothing going from, or nothing coming in from the north to sort of southwest side, then you know that the air spawn is going to be from east. Well, depending on where they land, obviously some of them might get lucky, but chances are it's going to be east and southeast on that corner spot there. Occasionally you might even get one on the southwest spot, but again, that's not likely. The main two are going to be those two. Right, so with that in mind, knowing where the air is coming from, you can set up your anti-air units, to cover those spots. So in mine, I've got the legendary BFG set up for anti-air, and it's also got the Shadow Alliance Smoke Tech. The most common spot is there. So as soon as they send in a load of aces, they just get annihilated. Basically, that's max level. It takes down an entire group of aces in 2 shots. If they send in Shepherd, then again, similar thing happens because I've got Artemis there, Artemis in that watchtower, again covering that spawn point. I've got Artemis spawning from that side, I've got my Nick right there, mainly covering this potential spawn point. I've got Pegasus on this side, because Legendary Phantom can spawn from literally anywhere, irrelevant of where their base is on the map. So you got plenty to look out for. It's just covering the most likely option, which, like I said, is going to be that east spot. Right. So, in terms of covering the spawn points, if, for example, somebody was to drop ground units on the back end of my base, fuck off, to obviously avoid the Dragon's Teeth, it means they're separated from their air. Fuck off! Why is it whenever I'm trying to record, my phone just goes mental? Yeah, so having ground units separated from their air means you can pick each bit off, you know, in no time. So with that in mind, if air is going to be coming in from this side, and only ground will be coming in from this side, things like your rocket silo, you can set up to be anti-ground. The only two options you want are between Earthshatter and Patriot. Right, in this one, it's Patriot, because that covers the air spawn. Exactly the same missile, no point using Achilles GS, because you can see the difference. Yes, it's got a little bit more range, but the damage output and the rate of fire is, well, you can see for yourself, it's shit. So, no point using Achilles GS. Aside from anything else, you're only going to hit unique units. You know, these do more damage to those anyway. So, that's how you can set up around where your base is on the map. If you're in the middle, then you might have to use might have to swap around some of your Dragon's Teeth depending on whether you get time. If you know where somebody's going to be coming from, you can sort of compensate for that. But otherwise, as long as you can jump back to a corner spot, setting up will definitely help you. So, in terms of using the judge, 1 second. Right, in terms of using the judge, that again, if you can see where plats are coming from, you can get some shots out before they even land. I'll go into hotkeys in another video, but just for the basics, that is the A button. Right, it's the hotkey for attack move. You can see their corresponding buttons there. S, D, F, R. Right, stop, defend, fire at will, and Ruby's control. Right, the attack move, as soon as you hit the A button, that's what it comes up. You set a firing point, and that's where the judge is going to be firing. So, as long as you've got the spawn points covered accurately, which I'll go into in just a second, you know exactly where to fire, and it takes less than a second to change your firing position. Right, covered by a bishop as well. Obviously, judge has got increased rate of fire. So, not only do they land on Dragon's Teeth, get blown up by 3 mines on each spawn point, but then they'd have the judge to worry about as well. Say you're getting hit by 5 plats, you can even split some of the fire, some of the rockets. So, for example, you could do fire 2 on that one, and then fire 2 on this one. Okay, that was 1 and 3, but you get the point. Takes a little bit more practice to do that, depends on what you're getting hit with, but that is something you can use at your discretion if the opportunity arises. So, I'll just do that one again. 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, 2 rockets on 2 different spawn points. Right, so that's how you use your judge to defend. Makes things a lot harder for them, and it puts the pressure on. It means if they haven't put their units on defensive, they're going to run straight into the base, get lured in, and die. In terms of the devouts that I mentioned earlier, yeah, I got my minds in place. Right, let me just find one. That's 2. There we go. So, once I've got them upgraded a little bit more, best spot for your devouts is actually going to be just behind the spawn point. Reason being, devouts are tough bastards. They take a lot to kill. Now, this railgun, for example, is a bit too close to that spawn point for my liking, so that's one of the adjustments I'm going to make. But as soon as somebody drops a ground unit or air or whatever in there, whatever is going to be landing there is going to immediately fire at that devout, meaning the rest of your base covering that spawn point, be it controllers, devouts, railgun, whatever you've got there, mainly controllers, will have time for their drones to reach that spot. Devout will take a bit of damage, but if you set it up properly, it will not be killed. Unless they drop Adam straight away, but like I said, that covers one spot. If you've got one of these on each spot, yeah, it's definitely a good trick to use. Right. So, just to go back to what I was saying about setting up the mine placements, here is my mine tester platoon. It's 20 elite heavy gunners, and is it 20 or no, I put a few more in, didn't I? 24, yeah. Yeah, so on their tech, no damage from mines. So you can use these to test placement positions. For example, if when you're redoing your base, you've got somebody else with a platoon like that, you know, ask them to set it up. They send it in, and without Ruby on and without anything covering that general area, they will sit there. You can then see the area they cover, and you can put your mines around where they're going to be. Obviously, the more accurate you can be, the better. But then they'll hit the same spot again, deploy in the same spawn point, and if all the mines blow up, you know it's a relatively good spot, but you can adjust them accordingly. So that, once you do it on all 6 spawn points, is obviously how you're going to get accurate spawn point coverage. The other thing you can do is have 50-50 distribution between low wire and Dragon's Teeth. Right? Obviously my Dragon's Teeth there would need to be moved over a bit, so the mines go straight down the middle, effectively. But I've got trophies marking that spot, so I don't want to move it just yet. So with 1 Dragon's Teeth and 1 low wire there, you can guarantee that something is going to get stuck. Be it Adam or Romero or whatever the case, whatever they're using, it's going to get stuck. Now, the reason I'm not using that at the moment is primarily because there's only 4. If Adam was to drop in on this end, he's got the entire base to run around in, and it's just not really worth the risk, because when they send Adam in, they're going to be gunning for your Screamer or your Nick primarily. The Aura can be used to take out the Pegasus. That's why I've got my low wire set around here, right? So again, as an example, let's say air was spawning from that corner, right? My Nick is positioned there, and for the sake of the example, they've got a ground plat with Adam and Romero sat right there. Soon as they spawn, you're going to want to call your Nick back, right? They can go straight in and start firing, but if you're quick enough, they'll have to stop while they're getting fired at. They'll have to go all the way round while you can have this spot to play with. Because if they try and cross the low wires, obviously they're going to get caught and they're just going to get fucked up. So being able to maneuver around that spot and get back to keep firing at the air, because by doing that, it doesn't take long for a base like this to kill air units, right? So it's about making sure you've got the coverage. As soon as you pull back your Nick or Screamer, whatever it is, into the base, right, he's still going to be stood there, or he's going to have to go round either side. You can just cut across, but staying out of range is the key to not losing your Nick. So that's why I've still got it set up like this. It's just the method I prefer, and I've had very good results with it, so sticking with it for now. So moving on to fusion towers. Right. As you can see, the difference between a fusion tower and a deep reactor at max level is quite a lot. 4 times the power output and 3 times the armor. Right? Yes, deep reactors have reduced damage from air. Right? Not enough to warrant that difference in the armor. I still flatten people with 2 deep reactors using only air units. Yeah, because if all else fails, once everything else in your base is dead, and the only thing standing is your deep reactor, and all they have is air, guess what? Siege Squadron. That'll drop a shitload of Ramiros, shitload of Ravagers, and again, you've got the ground there killing your deep reactor. So, fusion tower over deep reactor. Takes a lot more to kill, gives you a lot more power to use, and aside from anything else, you can see it a lot easier because if you've got trophies around it, deep reactor just gets lost. Alright, I know I'm doing a lot of talking on this one, kind of the point, explaining why my base works so well. Obviously, my base isn't impregnable. It's, it can still be flattened. If you got 3 tags full of people coming at you at once, eventually you're going to get flattened. Right? Trick is to cost them as much as possible. If it takes people 500 gold to flatten you between, say, 5 or 6 players, they're not going to make a habit of coming at you too often. If you've got an entire sector full of people with those sort of bases, the only people you're going to get hit by are the heavy coiners. By which point, eventually, they're going to run out, or they're going to get bored. But for everybody else who plays normally, spend a bit of gold here and there, they're not going to bother with you. So, your base is never going to get hit for the sheer fact of how much it's going to cost them to do it. Especially if you've got a setup like this when you're a low level. So, moving on again. Next point. Outer defense line. So, I've already gone into Patriot and Earth Shatter. Those are, obviously, like I said, the 2 best rockets you want to use. If you use anything else, then you're a bit of a moron. Especially after this video, if you decide to keep them. You can see the difference. Right? Those 2 compared to everything else. Right? It speaks for itself. Right, railguns. The key to your defense in terms of the building structure. Okay. The key to building. Fuck off. Right. The key. You can't see these pop-ups on the video, but those little notification pop-ups you could probably hear just then. They can be really quite fucking annoying. Right, let's try this again. The key, waiting, no, nothing that time, to having the strongest defensive setup in terms of the buildings is by utilizing the maximum damage output for any given area. Right, reinforced heavy platforms, those platforms are stronger than the other options. I will just show you. So the main ones are going to be the reinforced and the standard heavy. Right, floater, if you use that, you're a monumental bellend. And insulated is just useless by comparison. Right, look at the difference there, and that's no way near what it is at max level. Obviously the difference just keeps growing. So you want to be using the reinforced heavy, right? On said reinforced heavy, you want railguns, 2.3 million DPS, right? Yes, it only hits ground. Guess what? Ground is a harder bit to take down. If you've got Screamer, Nick, Pegasus, nobody's using air to get past you, right? They're going to have to use either a combination of ground and air, or they're going to have to use ground units, hence rail launchers. With the support turrets of telemetry, which increases range, so extra 50 range from that. Absorption, which 3 of these are on Generation 2 platforms. I'll go into that in a second. Obviously they take the fire away from the rail launcher. And fusion increases the damage by a shitload. 200% to non-uniques, 300% to unique units. Alright, that's a shitload of damage. Getting hit by that is seriously painful. One on each corner. The other, don't really want to say this, but the other possible alternative is having it set up in basically the opposite way that I do, having defenders more set to ground and then turrets for air. But I think, again, I know there's 5 levels difference, but literally there's no real comparison. Yeah, rail launchers are the much better option just by utilizing that section. For air, you can set up your watchtowers to be both controllers, Devouts for both air and ground, Artemis for anti-air, the defenders that I've already mentioned. Yeah, when they all work together, air isn't getting in there. Rail launchers covering the ground. Yeah, that's always been the best way I've found. Plus, obviously I'll go into these bits a bit more in a minute. But when you've got production set to things like Phalanx, all the Spartans that pop out of Phalanx causes another distraction, gives your base time to get controller drones out and everything else, and it's just hilarious to see what people use. Well, lose. So that's why you go for railguns and the reinforced heavy platforms. Now, following on to lead storms against sledge and upholder. Both of those are useless, more or less. Too easy to get around. Yes, the sledge has got more damage, as you can see there. Upholder is not quite level 5 yet, but still. Lead storms hit both, air and ground. These two only hit ground. That's your best option for maybe not DPS, like I said, but by the time you take into account the extra rate of fire, you are actually doing more damage per second than the sledge. Right, so best option there is that the platform itself. Again, same with everything else. If you're using floaters, you just need to go play Farmville, basically. Resistor platform, same as the insulated. Immune to status effects. Has its benefits, I'm sure, in terms of that, but not nearly enough to warrant the difference in armor, as you can see. Right, it's a ridiculous difference, and even less there. If you're using floaters, somebody could literally just send in Ramiro, and your base would be flat in about 20 seconds, if that. So, make sure you're using the plated platform for Generation 2, and for Generation 1, it's going to be the armored platform. Right. At the moment, as you can see, the normal defense platform is 75 armor higher than the armored platform. Now, when you get into the last couple of levels, that changes. and there is actually quite a big gap between the armored platform and the normal defense. Right? Yes, you've got other options. No, airborne is not one of them. Reinforced and insulated, again, both do more or less the same thing. Blocks splash damage, suppresses status effects. None of them do enough to warrant the difference in armor. Same reason as the heavy platforms and the Generation 2. So always keep with the armored platform. You will be much better off. So drone silos, next bit of outer layer defense. Right, 50-50 split between Hornets and Yellow Jackets. Both set up for anti-uniques mainly. You know, drone silo even now, both max level. They both survive after the silo itself gets destroyed. Perks of that, but for the most part, you could have an empty silo and it wouldn't make that much of a difference to your defense. But if you are going to use it, it does have obviously some benefits to offer. The 4 wing drones here are customized with shock tech. Right, any vehicles that come in, granted they're mainly for the events, because I don't have to fuck about with my defense. I leave it literally as it is, and I don't take any damage in events at all. Right, like I said, the wing drones, shock tech, it helps. Some things it doesn't have any effect on, obviously, but if someone's got to stop to shoot the wing drone, it's still an extra second you've got to destroy it using something else in your base. Hornets, obviously anti-air. Yellow Jackets, anti-ground. Pretty self-explanatory. They do help, but that's the best thing to do for those. I've looked into so many other options, and I see people using sort of one drone silo for just Hornets and one for just Yellow Jackets. What the fuck is the point in that? If you're coming at one side with air and you've only got Yellow Jackets in there, guess what? They're not going to do shit. Likewise, if you're coming in with ground and all that's in there is Hornets, again, they're not going to do shit. 50-50 split guarantees that they come in handy. Alright. I think that covers just about everything in the outer layer. One thing I will point out, in here, obviously my 2 different controller designs. EMP, Signal Hydrak, both of them have double launch, but this one's got thermite drones and long range antenna. Right? They work together very nicely. If you wanted to go more anti-ground using Screamer, Legendary BFG, Pegasus, Nick, all of that for anti-air, having your watchtowers focus more on ground using 3 controllers, it really does fucking work. Then again, you can do 3 controllers, 1 devout, and you can throw in something like a shock trooper. Right? Takes up 50 space. 1 devout, 3 controllers, that's 600. So finish it off with that. Doesn't do much, but occasionally if a vehicle can be shocked and you've got that in there, it will effectively do the same thing as the EMP drone on the controller, but it's 50 space that, 50 capacity that would otherwise just be empty, so might as well have something. So those are your options for the watchtowers. Artemis compared to Seraphs and Buzzsaws. Seraphs are more or less useless. I've always found they're just, yes, they've got a lot more splash damage for aces, but they're just crap. Buzzsaws are a little bit better for taking down Shepherd, Herald, the bigger, bulkier air units. But Artemis is sort of the better option for the all-round effect. So if they spawn aces, you've still got enough splash damage there to take out a group of aces. If they spawn Shepherd, then again you've got the DPS there to deal with Shepherds quite nicely. they've also got the better range for that sort of thing. Bustles are a little bit higher on range, Seraph are a little bit lower, so again, Artemis is the middle option. And it's tried and tested, it works. So, inner defense, I've already mentioned my low wires, the purpose for those there, stopping Adam, Romero, whatever, from getting to Nick or whatever else. If they're trying to take out key units, you just maneuver around this little spot. He would have to go all the way around the outside, takes a lot longer, and gets him a lot more dead. So, next bit on there. Sphinx are obviously the more logical option. Everything else there is max level and crap. So if you're gonna have anything coming out of your airfield, make it Sphinx. The other option I sometimes use for the War Factory is a Purifier. Reason being, 6 million health and nearly 900,000 DPS. They're quite tough to take down even now. The time it takes a unit to stop and destroy that Purifier means your base has got another 2 or 3 seconds to get more shots out on their DS or their Hive or their Adam, whatever it is. You can just put another bit of pounding on it, because that Purifier won't cost you anything. But same reason I'm using the Phalanx at the moment, plus the Phalanx gets there quicker. Right, and like I said guys, I know I'm doing a lot of talking right now. I know it's quite a lot to take in and think about. All I'm doing here is just giving you what I think are the tried and tested, proven, better options for each bit. Because each section here is effectively a link in a chain. Right? If one link goes down, the whole thing shatters. So use everything to work together. If you had mixed rail launchers with hunters, say 2 on each, then again you're creating an opening. They can spawn ground units just there, take that out, happy days. Couple of controllers there, controllers land with that railgun there, one shot dead. Especially with the devouts on each corner. You try not to give people an opening. Right? To show you what I mean, obviously I haven't got anyone big enough online at the moment to give me a base test on it. Just to show you, I did use Smash for it yesterday. And yeah, you got 4%. Lost all of that. And all he got was that corner, which I pointed out obviously is a little bit too close. But people who have actually tried, 7% used aces, thought it was a bad idea. Fuck's sake. I'll try and find some of the slightly better ones. KT Braveheart, level 50. He got 27% on me. Right? And lost his ass to do so. As you can see. Like I said, when everything works together, as soon as something spawns, it dies, no matter what it is. Right? Things like Adam, as I mentioned, he's a beast. He is tough to take down. He works well as a shield. If you've got the maximum damage output, it means he's not going to be standing up for as long. But it will still take a bit of time to get through him. Next up, most of these just tried and failed miserably. Come on, there we go. As you can see, it's not exactly low levels that I fight. I mean, there are a couple on there, but Demonia, for example, she was funny. She just sucked. Why are there no... Right, that's not showing up any of the base hits. because the Big Boss Supreme finally got me after all of the others. Because Now You Die went first or second. No. Either way, quite a few of them went first. That's not. There it is. 8%. No, that wasn't. Fucking. These logs really aren't liking me today. There we go. Right. There we go. 87%. Lost a shitload to do it. Why these aren't loading properly, I don't know. Because I should have a more recent one as well. Thanks, Kixeye. Twats. Right, that would have been just a holding one. And then he did finally get me. Still, after the 49. Cost him both a lot to do it. And I wasn't even defending for that because I was off fighting. So, offline hits, a 49 and a 51, both lost their asses to finally get the 3-star on me. Without me defending. So, let's find another good one. Darth Tyrannus was always funny. Tried me 79 days ago, got his ass kicked. Realised I was online 2 days ago and ran away like a little bitch. Right, Samson. Good friend of mine. Definitely given me a lot of advice over the time I've been talking to him and fighting alongside him. Come on. Fucking Jesus. Right. Basically, he got 91%. It was a base test that I asked him to do. He brought 3 or 4 platoons, can't remember exactly how many. And yeah, he got 91%. He definitely knows what he's doing, hence why I asked him to give me the base test. But still cost him a shitload to do it. And this is a guy who is always fighting when he's online. That's literally all he does. Come on. For fuck's sake. There we go. Right. 91%. This was obviously his first couple of tests on me. But as for the one the other day, this is what he used. That's a lot of loss for 91%. And still only a 2-star bubble, but it was a very good hit. I can't remember the last time one person did that much on me. Normally, one person would be lucky to get a 1-star, and it takes 2 or 3 to actually take it down properly. So, as you can see, it works. So, for the last bit, that's the command center. I'm talking that much that my fat keeps going up. So, shield over stealth. Reason being, stealth tech is designed to hide units. This also stops them from firing. If you've got the judge in there, I'm sure you can see where this is going. Stealth generator stops the judge from firing. So, reasons for having the shield over the stealth is it protects all the adjacent buildings. So, your production buildings, the longer they stay alive, the more units spawn. Pretty much common sense. Your go-go bar keeps your defender damage boost and your repair boost, right? Defense lab, 20% less damage in combat for your base plat, right? Doesn't sound like a lot, but it all helps out those. And I've got my anti-missile bastion under there as well. Those are protected by that shield. If you're going to use the stealth generator, like I said, it is pretty much useless because anyone with advanced scouts can see what's under there anyway. And the alternative is you look at everything else that's in somebody's base. If all of this was hidden, you can look at everything around the outside, and whatever isn't there is under that stealth. So you know it's there anyway. You know, it's one of the most pointless things ever. The only advantage to the stealth is it makes the buildings harder to target. But if you're close enough to target those anyway, it means you're already flat. So, kind of null and voids that. So, like I said, guys, just have a think about it. Use whatever puts out the most damage, put it all together, and beautiful things happen. When everything works together, whoever's attacking you has a very hard time. So, make use of what's there, take on board what I've said, and the reasons behind it, and you'll see a massive improvement in your defense. Guaranteed. As long as you're covering the spawn points, which is your primary thing you want to look at, because each of my watchtowers cover 2 spawn points each. So as soon as things drop, that's it, they're getting fired at. There's no space for people to run around the outside, spread units out, plan the hit. As soon as they're in, they have to move. They get closer, they die. Yeah. Going through the logs, I've proved that works. So hopefully this video's helped you out a bit. If you want to go over certain bits again, obviously just go back through, and yeah, like I said, hope it helps. Leave a comment, whatever. If you want me to do another video, episode 3 will be a bit more practical in terms of prisons, holding bases, use of covering your base, in terms of obviously the plats outside, and just some other tips and tricks around that. But like I said, hopefully this helped, and until the next one, take care.